What's up, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso, joined by Paul Kilgallen for some post-game therapy. We just got back from MetLife, I don't know, like 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes
Yeah.
ago, something like that. Still shaking off the cold and misery of yet another Jets one possession loss, their third in a row, 23-20 to the Buffalo Bills in what was a choppy, ugly, weird game that had no flow to it. Both of us were on the right ride back. We're trying to rack our thoughts on this one about how to put it in context. And it's a tough one. I mean, this team, I'm used to the Jets getting blown out frequently, multiple weeks in a row. I'm not used to them creatively losing one possession games in such unique ways. What are some of your initial thoughts? And then we'll get into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a quick exit from MetLife is about the only good thing I feel about tonight.
We did well there.
We did. We had a quick exit. I can't believe how the ways that this team finds to lose games seem to transcend coaches, players, front office administrations. It's creative. It's borderline creative the way that they find to lose games. Like the last 2 weeks, we walked away feeling like they played like crap and still had a chance on the last possession to win the game. And then tonight, they pretty much played pretty well on both sides of the ball. There was one bad drive on defense where they just got the ball stuffed down their throat on the opening possession. Outside of that, I mean, the points before the half were largely aided by penalty. And then you hold them to 3 in the second half. Like what more can you really ask from the defense at that point? So outside of one possession, they played well on defense. All the guys that you want to perform well on offense performed well. Aaron Rodgers threw for 300. Breece Hall rushed for 100. Garrett Wilson caught for 100. Allen Lazard caught for 100. And they still lost the game, right? And it's penalties again. It's special teams now. It's every time they plug a leak somewhere, 3 more spring up elsewhere. And, Tyron Smith looked like he was stuck in mud tonight. He couldn't make a play. He couldn't block anybody. He was getting penalties. It's maddening that this team, this franchise just continues to find ways to lose games. And the other thing I'll just toss out there is the NFL, should borderline be embarrassed about that product tonight. The 22 penalties for over 200 yards or whatever it was. Nobody wants to watch that. That's not for anybody. That was a complete ref show tonight, and some of them may have been warranted, but for the most part, that was just a disaster all around. We couldn't believe what we were watching in the stadium.
Yeah, obviously when you're there, you can't see the replays and you can't see as many specifics around the penalties, but I've never seen anything like that. I mean, it wasn't just the refs were picking on the Jets. It was on both sides. I've never seen that many total penalties where you couldn't even react to a play because you knew a penalty flag was coming. And the entire stadium, the Bills fans who were there, the Jet fans who were there, it especially in the second half, it was unlike anything I've ever seen. And that's not why the Jets lost. The Jets lost for a multitude of reasons. What comes to my mind first is 2 missed field goals that should have been made. Not being able to score touchdowns. It sounds like an oversimplification, but you need to score touchdowns to win in the NFL, and the Jets just cannot get over that hump. They can move the ball. They moved the ball really well tonight. They had a touchdown wiped off the board by a penalty that sounds like it was borderline and didn't really impact the play. But also, and you were saying this in the moment, score a touchdown, Breece Hall, on your run. Get in the end zone, my guy. Get in the end zone. The Jets have really talented players at certain positions. They do not have guys who score touchdowns. Garrett Wilson did get in tonight. Now he scored 2 weeks in a row. That's encouraging. But guys like Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall and other teams score touchdowns in bunches and score tons of touchdowns. And the Jets have them periodically scoring and Allen Lazard scoring, and that's it. They signed Mike Williams to score touchdowns. He has no touchdowns for 6 games. And twice with the game on the line, Aaron Rodgers just went to him, and it's resulted in a game-ending interception. And I don't want to talk at all about Devontae Adams or Hassan Reddick tonight, but it's, again, a further emphasis that they need those players. They didn't sack Josh Allen once tonight. They didn't hit him once tonight. And now 3 straight games, The Jets have not had a receiver who can make a play on the game's final drive. And that's not all on the receiver. Some of that is on Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers' job is you're a Hall of Fame quarterback, win the game late, and he's 0 for 3 the last 3 weeks doing that. The blame is nuanced, but the Jets are having a hard time overcoming their supposed to be elite players not being elite, and they're supposed to be good players not being that good. So Tyron Smith supposed to be an elite left tackle, not playing like it. Quinton Williams supposed to be like the second best interior defensive lineman in football, not playing like it. Not in the same class as Dexter Lawrence, who shares a stadium with him. Not even close. Mike Williams supposed to be a good starting receiver. He's barely the Jets' third receiver. Allen Lazard is outplaying him this year, and that's saying something because he's Allen Lazard. Brees was better tonight, and I hope, like Garrett, he's turned a corner. He's still not quite all the way there yet. Still feels like he left yards on the field. The Jets can't overcome that. Their roster is not that good to overcome that, especially when Joe Douglas didn't finish the job and kept the wrong kicker, apparently. And, 3 straight one-possession losses, man. Like, uncharted territory in some ways for this team. It's losing. Losing is losing. It doesn't matter how many points you lose by and if they have a positive point differential on the season or not. They're still 2-4. And in, like, the most desperate of desperate situations, they can't make that play. They don't know how to win. I don't know how else to put it. They don't know how to win and make winning plays when the game gets close.
You know what's frustrating, though, is we've been hearing that line from this team for 3 or 4 years now of like, oh, we need to learn how to win. Like, when are you going to do it? When are you going to learn how to win? And I think a good encapsulation of that is that Brees run of, look, he played really well tonight. He looked, like you said, he looked close to himself, not all the way there, but close to himself. But when you bust out around the left end and you're coming down the sideline, you don't need to put on the brakes and juke out that last guy. You need to lower your shoulder and bowl him into the end zone and get the ball across the pylon. Like, that's all you need to worry about. Don't hit the brakes and try to make one more cut. I feel like he does that way too often where it's one cut too many. And Garrett Wilson does the same thing sometimes where he's not going north-south. It's one cut too many. And, as far as Aaron Rodgers goes, it's not like he played a bad game tonight, but this is now 3 straight weeks where we've had the ball in a Hall of Fame quarterback's hands, down by 1 possession, with an opportunity to win the game with 4 minutes or less, and we've gone 0 for 3. And that was the reason that I thought we got him for. Like, we were able to play close games before. We got blown out a lot in Rob Saleh's 3+ years here, but we were also able to play close games often, and we lacked that closing ability. We lacked that, as they've said in press conferences a million times in the last 3 years, we need to learn how to win. And that's what I thought this guy was going to be here for. And, in some ways, like, he did kind of get us into the scoring area down at the end there, but then it gets called back for a holding penalty on the Brees completion late, or the toss to Brees rather, around the end late. And so, like, we're just kind of left in this spot of like, how is this team any different from any of the previous teams? And how can it not be different when you have Aaron Rodgers running the show and playing pretty damn well like he did tonight? The throw to Mike Williams late, like, it probably should have been more towards the sideline. Like, I think it was in a spot where Mike Williams didn't know which way to turn, and he just got twisted around on the turf a little bit. And so you could make the case that should have been more towards the sideline to like lead him out. But still, I mean, he was wide open. The ball was there. It should have been caught, right? Like, a receiver of Mike Williams' caliber, supposedly, yeah, you make that catch. Like, you just have to make that catch in that situation. And so, like, it's the way we felt in the car. I kind of still feel like I'm home now. Like, I'm just dumbfounded at how they found a way to lose this game.
Dumbfounded loss. Like,
yeah,
just like kind of speechless because it was a weird game. It was a choppy game. I've never seen more penalties in my life. I've never seen a completed Hail Mary in a game I was had in my life since the Jets-Jags playoff game in '98. The Bills missed a PAT and a field goal. The Jets missed 2 kicks off the crossbar. And, like, what's frustrating is you don't leave that game being like, the Jets don't belong on the field with Buffalo. Like, they can't run with Buffalo. Buffalo's the class of the AFC. Like, Buffalo didn't look good tonight. Like, it's not like Buffalo ran the Jets off the field tonight. And that's what I think in some ways makes it more frustrating. The same thing with the Vikings. The Vikings are 5-0. It's not like, well, the Jets can't hang with the Vikings. They don't belong on the same field as them. It's like they played terrible and they lost by 6 because Aaron Rodgers missed Garrett Wilson deep. Now, it doesn't mean anything because at the end of the day, like, you have to win games and you put yourself in a big enough hole, it doesn't matter. Like, you're not going to be able to dig out of it. And I worry about this team and the potential character of this team coming off a loss like that on a short week, going to the terrible towels in Pittsburgh against that defense. Another flawed team in the AFC, but a team that, with Mike Tomlin, finds ways to win games. Like, ugly, whatever, they just win games. And it's like, man, like, I don't know how in my right mind I could like really expect the Jets to get off the mat and go to Pittsburgh and win a game against that defense right now for all the problems that Pittsburgh has on offense, because what's likely to happen is the Jets are likely to be in a close one possession game. Can they get over the hump? And tonight, like you said, if you would have told me before the game that Rodgers was going to throw for 290, 2 touchdowns, Garrett would have 100, Lazard would have 100, Brees would have 100, I would have said they're going to win. And even if you would have told me they were going to score 20 points tonight, I'd say that probably is even enough tonight with what I think the Jets defense could do against Josh Allen. And in the second half, the Jets defense was great. They allowed 3 points in the second half. And they couldn't get off the field on the last drive. I don't want to all pick it all on one player because it's not all one player's fault. But, man, this team thinking Michael Clemens could be a starter when everyone with eyes could see it was going to be a major problem is just infuriating, just because it was so obvious it was going to be a problem. And they just don't have enough juice on the defensive line. I think we were all got a little excited about Kinlaw, but there was a reason the Niners let him go. He's been a disappointment. Obviously, Clemens cannot start. And then you still have guys like Sal Thomas and the UDFAs chewing up reps. Quinnen has not been himself. And it just leaves Will McDonald kind of on an island. And then you got Ashton Davis out there playing major reps because Clark's banged up and he can't do it. And the Jets, they could have gotten a safety. Like Justin Simmons was out there, other guys were out there, and for whatever reason, they thought they didn't need to make that move. And even though the defense held the line in the second half, no sacks, no turnovers, like no game-changing plays because they don't have that level of playmaker right now. DJ Reed got banged up in this one, which stinks. Like, Sauce is like fine, but still can't really tackle, and he's not forcing any turnovers, and he's not making any game-changing plays. Not that that's necessarily his job. So it's just frustrating. This team, they're 2-4. They feel like they should be at least 4-2, but it doesn't really matter because the thing starts to slip away from you very quickly. And it's like now it's that time where Pittsburgh's going to be tough. New England, going to be tough. I'm sorry it is. Like, they'll just be more scrappy with Drake May playing quarterback. And, like, I'm a Jet fan. Like, I'm not going to go into that game puffing my chest out thinking it's going to be a walk in the park. And then you got to play Houston, who's, like, one of the 3 best teams in football, back on primetime in this building again, which, depending how the next 2 weeks go, could be an absolute ghost town. And I thought the crowd, showed up tonight and did a good job. And it was not overrun with Bills fans in any way whatsoever. It's just shitty. Like you're in all these one possession games and you can't get over the hump. Any other final thoughts from the lovely experience at MetLife tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point about Pittsburgh, they are the antithesis of everything that we see from the Jets, especially tonight when you put it in a capsule. Like, Pittsburgh doesn't play well. They're not going to put up numbers, but they just find ways to win games. They know how to win. I've been saying it for years. I would trade an entire draft for Mike Tomlin and potentially more, maybe 2 drafts for Mike Tomlin, because the guy just does a lot with a little and he knows how to win. And so I think, they are the polar opposite of what we are right now, which is a lot of talent that can't figure out how to win a game. And to your point, like, you're going to learn a lot about this team. If they go in there and lay down next week, things can get ugly quickly here. I think I'm tired as a fan of feeling like every single thing is so important. It's always, we need to convert on this 3rd down, or we need to get 6 on this drive, or on a season level, it's like, well, now we need to win this game. This game's a must win. Like, we're always just in these high leverage positions where we need to dig ourselves out of a hole, whether it be by penalty or because you blew an opportunity in the red zone, or because you lost 4 out of your first 6 games and you're in a hole now. And even though the AFC's weak, like, we're just always in these high leverage positions. And I'm so tired of needing to dig out instead of just being able to cruise and get up, whether it be, like I said, on a drive level where you start off hot, or on a game level where you put points up early, or on a season level where you can stack a bunch of wins early. We just don't do that. We do the opposite of that every time. And it's so tiring as a fan to just be in this position over and over and over again, where every little thing feels so important because you can never get a lead on anything. And so, yeah, I think to your point, like, it's going to be a really important game in Pittsburgh next week. They need help on defense and offense. I know you don't want to talk about Reddick or Adams, but like, they need those guys. They need them bad. And if you have to imagine that everything is Clemens is doing is showing up on tape every single week, and they still are not willing to put McGregor out there for a more significant period of time. Like, how do they have no other plan other than Clemens? The entire world knew that Josh Allen was scrambling left on that third down play at the end of the game. Clemens broke contain. He was out of position, and the game's over, right? Like, that has to show up in film every single week. And for them to not have a backup plan, like, you need to do what you got to do at this point. You have to swallow your pride. You have to change your policies. You have to get Reddick in the building. You have to get another receiver in the building. I think the success that Alan Lazard has had early this season is so evident of why chemistry with Rodgers is so important. That third down play to Lazard, where he threw it into his hip pocket, basically, like, I was live watching that and I had no idea how he caught that ball. Like, it, and that's a testament to when you know Rodgers and when you know where he's going to go with the ball, you're going to be there for it, right? And that, I think, just emphasizes why we so badly need to make that trade and why we so badly need to get Reddick in the door, is because the team's depleted. The players that were supposed to be playing well are not playing well. There also probably needs to be a conversation about Tyron Smith at this point. And I understand you probably can't bench a veteran like him, but maybe a hamstring injury pops up for a couple weeks, like, get healthy, whatever you need to do, like, take a couple weeks off and let's see what Olu can do, because he was stuck in mud tonight, and that can't keep happening. Rodgers is going to get killed back there. So I know I just kind of word vomited all over you there, but like, my head's a little scrambled after watching what we just watched. Like, changes need to happen. And and one more thing, like, it was all the same answers from Ulbrich in this press conference. Like, I stand behind, Greg Zerline. We need to take a long, hard look at penalties. Like, we've been hearing the same stuff over and over and over and over again. Nobody wants to hear it anymore. You need to just start making decisions. If you got to cut somebody, you got to cut somebody. Something needs to change. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair take. And I know a lot of the commentary on this, and I get it. Trust me, I get it. I was at the game. I stood out there for 4 hours before the game. I sat outside for 4 hours for the game. I just commuted back from the game. I get the sentiment of, like, why are you talking about Reddick or Adams? They should just clean everything out and fire everybody tomorrow. The season's over. They're not going to do that. Like, I don't know how else to say that. Like, there's 11 games left. All these guys are paid to play the rest of the season. A lot of these guys are playing for their jobs, coaching for their jobs. Like, they're going to keep trying to win. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be successful, but they're not going to fold up shop at 2-4. Like, they're not 0-6. There's no one who's 6-0 in the AFC East. Agree or disagree, they're not going to fold up shop. Doesn't mean both of those transactions are going to happen, but you should not expect the entire franchise to fold at 2-4. And I think we were somewhat moderated in what we were saying before the game, in that even if they lost tonight, like, expecting the season to be totally shut down at 2-4 is not realistic. And I'm not sitting here selling you, a bag of goods that the Jets are about to rip off, go 8-2 in their next 10 and go on like this miracle run. What I am saying is that they will still be poking around at making changes to their roster to try to salvage this thing with Aaron Rodgers after making that trade. They're not going to just burn everything down after 6 games. We'll see. And we will learn a ton about where everything is going to sit in this Pittsburgh game, right? Again, the Jets did not, like, come out and lay down tonight. Like, they were ready to play. They went down the field. They kicked a field goal. Their defense looked shitty on the first drive. They got their act together. The game was there to be won the entire fourth quarter. They just couldn't do it, just like Minnesota and just like Denver. Pittsburgh would have written all over it the kind of game where you go out, lay down, and you get your asses kicked, or do you hang around and find a way to win a game against a team who's 4-2 and will be a favorite in that game, I think, by, probably 3 or 4 points when it's all said and done. We'll see. I don't know. It's hard to say with this version of the team right now. But it was, look, an unquestionable, frustrating loss just because it was there to be won. And Buffalo just looks so beatable. It's just, and every time there was a play or was a moment, there was a flag. And every time you thought they had got over the hump with a touchdown, it was called back. And then you miss a chip shot field goal. And then you miss another field goal. It's unlike any loss I could think of in recent memory. And I've seen them lose a lot of different ways. So, look, we're going to talk about it more throughout the week. Connor and I will record. I guess it's tonight now. It's past midnight. We'll record tonight for the pod and War Room, and then flip it around and be talking Jet Steelers because it's a short week. So, PK, we got to see it in person. We got to see the Hail Mary in our end zone, and Greg bounce one off the crossbar in our end zone. What's better than that? Nothing. I mean, my God. And 2-4. I think the Jets were 3-3 at this time last year. If anyone could dig it up and find the last time the Jets lost 3 straight one-possession games, please do. It's probably more recent than I'm making it out to be, but it's like breaking my brain thinking about the last time I've seen them lose like this. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hate to have to be another post-game therapy, but listen, we're seasoned veterans at this, and we will talk to you on the feed later tonight.